Welcome to the Global WarWatch Network. If you're looking for a clear, structured analysis of conflicts around the globe, you're in the right place, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now, back in May of 2025, things really kicked off between India and Pakistan. But this was a completely different kind of war. It was fought on two fronts, one with missiles and fighter jets, and a whole other one with memes and misinformation. This is the story of Operation Sindoor and how it completely rewrote the rules of modern warfare.
And this quote right here, it just nails it. This wasn't just a military operation. It was a battlefield of drones, data, and disinformation. You see, Operation Sindoor gave us a glimpse into a new kind of hybrid war, where the stories you tell online can be just as powerful, maybe even more powerful, than the weapons you fire. So, how did we get here? Well, let's rewind a bit.
The trigger for all of this was a horrific terror attack in March 2025 at Pahalgam that killed 23 civilians. 2 months later, on May 7th, India hit back with Operation Sindoor, targeting what it said was terrorist infrastructure. From there, things just exploded. For 4 straight days, the two nuclear-armed neighbors were right on the brink of an all-out war, before a very fragile ceasefire was finally put in place on May 10th.
Now, this is what makes this whole thing so crucial to understand. It wasn't just one conflict, it was two, happening at the exact same time. You had the kinetic war, the shooting war, with some of the most advanced military hardware on the planet, and right alongside it, you had the information war, the shouting war, a digital battle of pure disinformation. Let's start with the first one, the kinetic battlefield.
The physical fight was, frankly, an absolutely mind-blowing showcase of high-tech warfare. I mean, both countries rolled out their best and most sophisticated weapons. It basically turned this 4-day clash into a live-fire exercise, a real-world, high-stakes test of just what 21st century military power looks like.
So, India's strategy was all about surgical precision. They relied heavily on advanced weapons they could fire from a safe distance. The whole idea was to hit very specific targets with pinpoint accuracy, trying to avoid a wider war. And they used everything in the playbook, from supersonic cruise missiles to those smart kamikaze-style drones.
And what we're looking at here is basically a head-to-head matchup of some serious military tech. You had India's BrahMos missiles going up against Pakistan's CM-400 AKG. In air defense, it was a huge test. India's brand-new Russian-made S-400 system versus Pakistan's Chinese HQ-9. It was basically a proxy tech battle between the world's biggest arms dealers, launched from jets like the Rafale and the F-16.
And the scale of these strikes was pretty staggering. Official reports say India used a cocktail of French, Israeli, and their own homegrown weapons to hit these terrorist headquarters. But check this out, 19 BrahMos missiles fired at 11 different air bases. That's not just a warning shot. That was a clear, calculated move to try and cripple Pakistan's air power before it could even get off the ground.
Now, if there was one wow moment from the physical fight, this was it. India's S-400 air defense system scored its farthest ever confirmed kill. It took down a key Pakistani aircraft from 300 kilometers away. To put that in perspective, that's like hitting a target in another city. It was a massive demonstration of a new capability. But here's the crazy part. This seemingly clear-cut military victory would become the absolute epicenter of the information war.
And that's our cue to switch gears, because this is where the conflict got really weird and really modern. At the same time missiles were flying, a totally different war was being waged, not with steel, but with shares, likes, and outright lies, all across social media, messaging apps, and even on primetime news. Yeah, this quote from the International Federation of Journalists, it just says it all, doesn't it? The conflict turned into what experts called a misinformation superspreader event. It was like a digital wildfire of fake news, where getting the story out first was way more important than getting it right. It created this total chaos where nobody knew what to believe.
And the kind of stuff being thrown around was just wild. I mean, you had people posting clips from video games and claiming it was real combat footage. Can you believe that? There were deepfakes of world leaders, old videos from totally different wars being passed off as new, and even completely made-up reports of attacks on major cities like Karachi and Lahore.
Now, you might think this is all just online noise, but it had real-world consequences. India's top general actually admitted that his forces spent 15% of their operational time, their time in the middle of a conflict, just fighting fake news. Think about that. For every hour of real fighting, they spent almost 10 minutes fighting tweets and fake videos.
And this chart right here, this really shows you just how bad it got. For professional fact-checkers, it was a total flood. They reported that claims related to Operation Sindoor made up more than 2/3 of their entire workload that month. They were basically trying to drink from a fire hose of misinformation.
So what happens when you have these two wars, one of hardware, one of hashtags, raging at the same time? You get a total mess. It created this thick digital fog of war, where it was almost impossible for anyone, you or me, to figure out what was actually true. And remember that S-400 missile system we talked about? The one with the record-breaking shot? Well, this is the perfect example. On one side, pro-India sources were calling its performance exemplary. But on the other side, pro-Pakistan reports were claiming the whole system was actually blown to bits in a counterattack. Two completely opposite realities, both being pushed as the absolute truth. Who do you believe?
But no matter which story you chose to believe, one thing was undeniable: the cost. And I'm talking about cold, hard cash. This conflict, even though it only lasted 4 days, hit both countries right in the wallet. But as we'll see, one of them took a much, much bigger hit.
So for India, the price tag for just the stuff they actually fired, the missiles, the smart bombs, it came out to a little over $407 million. That is a huge amount of money to burn through in just 4 days.
But on Pakistan's side, wow, that number just skyrockets to $1.5 billion. And that wasn't just for ammo. That bigger number includes all the expensive stuff that got destroyed. The planes, the radar systems, the damage to air bases. The economic blow was just devastating.
And if you look here, you can see where all that money went. We're talking over $310 million just in destroyed drones, another $300 million plus in lost aircraft, over $200 million in radars and missile sites that were taken out. The damage was just crippling, and it all added up very, very quickly.
So what's the big lesson here? What do we take away from Operation Sindoor? Well, it made one thing painfully clear. Winning a war today isn't just about having the biggest guns or the best jets anymore. It's just as much about controlling the story, about winning the battle of perception and dominating the narrative.
And that leaves us with a really tough question, doesn't it? When the next conflict kicks off, and it's going to be fought with both bullets and bytes, who actually wins? Is it the side with the best weapons, or is it the side with the most believable story?
All right, that's what we've got for this one. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Global WarWatch Network. If you found this analysis useful, do us a favor and hit that like button, share it with someone, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss our next breakdown. We'd really love to know what you think, so drop your thoughts in the comments below, and come join the conversation on social media. All the links are right there in the description. We'll see you next time.